Hey kids, welcome to another lesson. Be sure and click subscribe so you can come back every time I upload another lesson in this math program. So this is lesson 14 in module 5. This is grade 5, module 5, and we're not going to have any notes today because everything in the teacher's manual is in the book today. So it's just word problems and many calculations. So hang in there. Let's get this done. George decided to paint a wall with 2 windows. Both windows are 3.5 feet by 4.5 foot rectangles. Find the area the paint needs to cover. So as we were practicing on previous videos, when you have an outer area and then the inner area that has to come out, you would find the area of the outer, then find the area of the inner, and subtract those. So let's get started. The outer area is going to be 12 7/8 times 8. And so I'm going to set this up right over here because we're going to have a lot of calculations. It's all going to be kind of mashed together, so try to organize your data as best as you can. 12 times 8 plus 7/8 times 8. I'm going to put that in a fraction. 8 over 1 is a whole number. And then 12 times 8 is 96. 8 times 2 would be the 16. Carry the 1. 8 times 8 is 1 plus 1 is 9. And then these cancel each other out for 1s. And then 7 over 1 would be 7. And then 96 plus 7, 6 and 7, would be the 13. And carry that 1 and you get 103. And this is feet squared for the outer area. Now, leave that alone and let's find the area of each window. Here are the measurements. If you go back to the problem, again, we're going to do the windows. Use the formula and plug in here. 3.5 by 4.5. For this one, because these numbers are sort of lower and smaller, we're going to go ahead and mix that into an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 halves. Now I have all of that. And then 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9 times all of that. And then we can't cross cancel or simplify, but we only get 63 over 4, which is still easily solvable. And then 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. That makes 23. 20 is divisible 5 times with 3 left over. So the windows are going to be 15 3/4. However, because there are 2 windows, we're going to pay close attention to what you're solving, and if we have 1, we need to take out the other one as well. So this is going to be times 2. And you can do 15 times 2 plus 3/4 times 2. And here we get 30. And cross cancel. And that's going to be 3 halves, which is equal to 1.5. And we have 31.5. So now we have to take our 103, which is part of our answer, and then subtract 31.5. Okay, now if I'm going to take the 31 away, that's fine, but I still have to take the half away. So still take the half away. 103 minus 31, just dealing with the whole numbers, then you have 72, but I still have to take that away, so don't forget. That's going to give you, oops, not inches, feet squared. And so the part that the paint has to cover is 71.5 feet squared. And you can label that for the painted area. Okay? All right. So I know it could be neater or organized better, but we do our best. Okay, let's move on. Joe uses square tiles, some of which he cuts in half, to make the figure below. If each square tile has a side length of 2.5 inches, and it's a square, so you know what the attributes are. If one side is 2.5, then the other side is 2.5. What is the total area of the figure? So on this one, what you have to do is look for the half squares, which would be the triangles, and every two make one square. So it's easy to count these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but what about all the halves? And so if you just put those triangular pieces together and do try to find them, then you can see you're going to have 3 extras. So we have 13. Again, count the holes and then count the triangle ones and put them together. 2 triangles make 1. So we need to have our 2.5. If area equals length times width, then we need to find the area. Then we have to have 2.5 times 2.5 because they're squares. And then when we find that, we have to multiply by all of those pieces. So since these are small, let's flip them into improper fractions. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And same thing. And we know that 4 goes into 25 6 times with 1 left over because 4 times 6 is 24, and then there's 1 left. So 6 1/4 would be the area of 1 square, but we have 13. So let's calculate all of that. (13) times 1/4. And again, like when it's a prime number, just put it over 1 and we won't be able to cross cancel. 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7 over 13/4. Make that a mixed number. 4 goes into 13 3 times because 3 times 4 is 12, and then there's 1 left over. And your final area for the figure is 81 1/4 inches squared. And don't forget to double check your units because they're going to be switching them around here. Okay, next one. Ooh, this one has a lot of calculating, so it's going to be all over the place. All-in-one Carpets is installing carpeting in 3 rooms. How many square feet of carpet are needed to carpet all 3 rooms? Total real-life question. If your parents ever laid down new carpet, new flooring, new tile, you have to find the area of the rooms. And if they're all the same, you got to add it all together. So when you don't know the measurements of all of the length and width, you do have to solve for that. As you can see, room C has this measurement, but there is no length. So when you have 25 1/4 on this side, but you don't have something here, you have to take off what's given. So 25 1/4, let's get the measurement right away before we start. 25 1/4 minus the 2 feet, okay? Take away 2. Gives you 23 1/4 left, but you have to take away this little bit here, minus 2 1/4. I know it's super tiny, but, and then this is disappearing, 1/4 minus 1/4. Now we have a measurement for every room. We have length and width. So start by divvying up your space down here into sections, and we'll start with room A. I'm going to save space. Instead of writing the formula, I'm just going to fill in what I will have. So it's going to be 25 1/4 times 15 1/2. Okay, because I'm using length times width to find area. Since these are so big, we're going to use our split it out 25 times 15, and then 25 times 1/2. and then 1/4 times 15, and 1/4 times 1/2. Some things just can't be done in your head. If you can do it in your head, bravo. Pat yourself on the back. 25 times 15. 5 times 5 is 25, and then 10 and 12. And then hold that with a 0. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 2 is 2. Add those together, and we get 375. Now 25 halves, because we're going to have so much stuff, I'm going to go ahead and convert that to a mixed number. So 25 times 1 is 25, over 1 times 2 is 2. 25 halves would be 12 and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and write that without doing the step where I have 25 over 2 and then copying it again and getting 12 and a half. In the same way, I'm going to have 15 over 4. 4 goes into 15 because I can't simplify. 4 goes into 15 3 whole times. That'd be 12. And then 13, 14, 15. That makes the 3/4. And then this is going to be 1/8 on the end. So take all your whole numbers and put them together. And so we can just do, say, 15 all in one, so the 12 and the 3, and then just add it right over here. And so now I have 390, but I also have to consider the fractions, which don't have common denominators. So let's make that happen. Leave the 390 alone, and we're going to have eighths plus eighths plus, we already have an eighth. And so this one will be times 2, so that's 6, and that's times 4, so that's 8. And then 8 and 6, 14 plus 1 is 15. And that almost goes twice, but it doesn't. And so we're going to have our 390 plus 1 7/8. And that will give you 391 7/8 for our first one. Okay, hopefully I did that correctly. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh lordy, where'd I go wrong? 1/2. Oh, I think I may have made a mistake. Hold on. Oh, hold on one second. Oh, I love making videos. These are fun. Where'd I go wrong? Oh, right here. See, if people were in class, they would have told me that. This is 4/8. Good thing I have an answer key that I can look at from time to time. The only thing is I need to actually look at it. All right. So then this one is 4/8 because it's not 8/8. 8/8 would be 1, but 4/8 is equal to 1/2. So 6/8, good, and then 10, and that makes 11/8, and then that would be 3/8. I was like, I'm off just slightly. This is the actual answer. Oh, whoo-wee. Good thing we caught that. Okay, 391 3/8 feet squared, and that's for sure, the area for A. Let's do B. And B is going to be 18.5 by 19. So we're going to take this apart because these are big numbers. Plus 1/2 of 19. And there's no easy way for 18 times 19, so just find room and work it out. 72. 162, 0, 8, 1, 342. And then 19 halves, instead of putting that, I'm just going to put 9.5. And then we're going to add those, and 342 up 10 would be 352, and so it would be 351.5, and that's going to be for B. This is for A. and keep this close. Now for C, we do have the dimensions. So it's a 21 times 16 3/4. And they are kind of big, so let's break it out. 21 over 1 times 3/4. And 21 times 16, there's no easy way to do that. And 1 and 2 and 6 and 3 and 3. So there's 336 plus 63/4. This one we can solve, but I'm going to rewrite it over here. 336, I'm just rewriting that, plus our mixed number. 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. 23 is divisible by 4 5 times with 3 left over. And then 336 plus 15, 11, 3, 4, 5, 351, and 3/4. Let's put the whole thing together. And that's for C. Okay, now we still have to put them all together. So these are really close, but we're going to put A, B, and C together. A is 391 and 3/8. B is 351 and 1/2. And C is 351 and 3/4. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to add up the whole numbers first, and then we'll deal with the fractions. And then 10 plus 9 is 19, and 3, 6, 9, 10. So we have 1,093 plus we have to make equivalent fractions. Let me do it right this time. I'm not going to have to change eighths because that is my denominator that I'm going to make everything into eighths. Half is equal to 4/8, not 8/8, and then times 2. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 3 is 13. So it's essentially 1,093 and 13/8, but you know that's a mixed number. So 8 goes into 13 one time. And 1 and 5/8. So we're going to add that. So 1,093 plus 1 would be 1,094 and 5/8 feet squared for all the carpet. And I can't even imagine what your books look like because, like, I'm an adult and I could barely squeeze everything in here. Okay, so don't blame me. I didn't make this program. This one would have been a whole page if I had put this book together for you. But there you go. Hope you got all that. Let's turn the page because there's more. Okay, number 4. It will focus. There we go. Mr. Johnson needs to buy sod for his front lawn. If the lawn measures 36 2/3 feet by 45 1/6 foot, how many square feet of sod will he need? Pretty straightforward. So until we purchase it in part B, but we just have to change books. Keep some answers close by so I don't mess anything up. All right, take your 36 2/3 times 45 1/6. Give me something to check my work. 36 times 45 for step 1, first times first, plus 36 over 1 times 1/6. Oh, hooray, finally we can cross cancel. Plus, move slowly and keep track of what you're doing. 2/3 times 45 plus 2/3 times 1/6. Okay, no easy way to do this one, so set it up on the side. Make sure you guys can see that. 30, 18, 0, 24, carry the 2, 12, 14, 0, 12, 4, 6, 16, 20. Look at that. That's a big number. Now this one you can cross cancel, so do it. And then 6 over 1 is just 6. Get whole numbers whenever you can. Turn off the lights whenever you can, just for fun. And then turn them back on. Be standing up and jumping around. Okay, now if you look at 3 and 45, we can actually simplify that because 3 goes into 4 one time, but there's 1 left over for it makes 15, and then you can divide by that. So it's 1 and 15, and then 2 times 15 makes 30. So now we have 16, 20 plus 6 plus 30 plus our final fractions, but 2 times 1 is 2, and then 3 times 6 is 18, but I can also cross cancel and get 1/9. And so now I just have to add these whole numbers. We'll just do a big equals over here. We only have 1 fraction, so 36, and that's going to be 1656 and 1/9 feet squared. So this is of sod. Okay. Now, this is part A, so you have to have the correct answer here before you can move on. Now, if sod is only sold in whole square feet, how many or how much will Mr. Johnson have to pay? Now, the prices, this would be like Home Depot, and so you may just have a small yard, so you just have to pay for the first 1,000 square feet at this rate. But if you go over that, then what they usually do is they lower the price because they feel bad that you have to buy so much. So this you'd have to bump up. We want to make sure we have enough sod, and you would probably, if it was real life, go up at least, 10 more square feet. But you don't want to overpay, so you have to try to be close. We're just going to keep this at the next whole number. Okay, so sod for us is going to go up to the next whole number. So we're going to use 1,657. Now for the first 1,000 square feet, so we have to break this up now. This number is going to have to be broken up into the first 1,000. Okay, so it's going to be 1,000 square feet times 27 cents per square foot. Well, that's pretty easy because anytime you multiply by 1,000, all you have to do is move the decimal around, okay? And so if I'm going to multiply 27 cents by 1,000, I would go 1, 2, 3, hop around, and so that's going to be $270, or put the decimal here, for the first 1,000 square feet. Okay, now the next 500 square feet would come right out of this position, but I don't want to make too much of a encroachment there. So the next 500, we can go ahead and just take 500 right out of there, which will leave us with 157 left. Okay, so the 16, well, I don't want to make any more work for you. Okay, the next 500 is 22 cents per foot, so let's multiply it. And that's going to be times 500 square feet. Put the 500 on the bottom so you don't have to have multiple partial products. Zeros for everything. Then for this one, zeros for everything. Now multiply with the 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11, and then that would come and then fall down. Hundredths, tenths, hundredths times hundredths. So the next amount is $110, okay, for 500 square feet. Then finally, now I've taken care of 1,000 square feet and I've taken care of 500. What's left is 157 square feet at the cheap price of 19 cents per square foot. So now this is all we have to do, and then we have to combine those amounts right here. So 9 times 7 is 63, and then 45 plus 6, 51, and then 9 plus 5 is 14. Hold the spot with a 0, multiply with 1, so I get 7 and 5 and $1. don't need to multiply with a row of zeros because that would just add nothing. So 3, 8, 9, 2. But look at it's multiplying with decimals. So $29.83. And then we're going to add these together. 9 is the only number in the ones. 7, 8, 9, 10. And he will pay, Mr. Johnson. He will pay, label that, $409.83 for sod. Okay, woohoo. All right, now this last problem is, well, hold on, let's straighten out. The last problem is, it has options. So Jennifer's class decides to make a quilt. Each of the 24 students, each person, that means 24 students, will make a square that is 8 inches on each side, except it's not 8 inches because keep reading. When they sew the quilt together, every edge of each quilt square will lose 3/4 of an inch. If you've ever done any quilting or sewing, you know what happens. You have to fold it under so that you can stitch it together, and you're going to lose some area when you are folding and stitching. So basically what we need to do is we need to think of each square not as an 8 by 8, but 8 minus 3/4, which would be 7 1/4 on each side. Okay, now it says here we have options. Draw one way. The squares could be arranged to make a rectangular quilt. Well, first of all, what are some ways that you can get 24 as your squares in an array? So you guys remember how to do arrays. It's like rows and columns. So how can you get 24 as your answer? Well, if you're trying to make a rectangular figure, you could have 8 times 3. You could also have 6 times 4. You could also have 12 times 2. You could also have 24 times 1. Now, any of these will work here, but we are making a quilt, so I would probably pick one of those. So let's just do like the 6 times 4, I suppose, so it'll be nice and square, probably the most square that we could get. So what we need to find is the perimeter of your arrangement. So if we have 6 times 4, it would essentially look like 4 across and then 6 sections down. Okay, so this would be the 6 times 4. But each of these has the 7 1/4. Okay? Oh my gosh. Is it seriously 28 minutes? Ugh. So what we need to do is we need to find the length here and we need to find the width here. And so we'd have to do 7 1/4 times 6. Okay, and then we're also going to do 7 1/4 times 4. And oh, my work is just not very neat. And so it would be 7 times 6 plus 1/4 times 6. And that would be 42 plus 6/4 is going to end up being 1 1/2. So it's 43 1/2. And that's for this. And then for the downward, because you have to find the length and the width so that you can get both measurements to find all the sides so you can add them together. 7 times 4 plus 1/4 times 4. And here's what I'm going to do. Totally almost out of time. I don't know that my work is super neat here, but I want you guys to be able to at least pause the video and just kind of copy to get the end. So if you have your 43.5 as your length, you have to get the width, which should be, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, that's going to be the 6 and the 4. Okay, add for the distance around. You should end up with 87 plus 58, which would be the two sides here for 87 and the two sides here for 58. So the perimeter is 145. And then for the area, you have to go and multiply the length times the width, the 43.5 times 29. And that's down here. And I think this is back in the old days when I did the flip everything together in an improper fraction. As you can see, this is a great example of how I've changed over time, because 87 times 29 is just a big problem, and then you still have to divide. So that's why I usually break them up into smaller. You can totally do it this way, and then you would end up with the area 1,261.5 inches squared. So I hope that's helpful. I know this is going a really long video, but I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for hanging in.